The Second Year Charity Gala by Independent 16 on Year 3. Summary. Anyways, Yamada continued in earnest. All you have to do is organize and promote a fancy party to raise funds for the school and some charities. Most places are pre-booked, but anyone can attend if they pay for a ticket. It's just very expensive. So it's mostly just managers coming to scout you out as sidekicks or interns. Are you guys sure we should have an open event? I mean, it's only been a few months. What if... Aizawa turned to the class and said with absolute conviction, "There will not be a villain attack at the gala." AKA, Shinsou's first class event in Class 2A goes about as smoothly as you expect. Episode 1. Chapter 1. Harsh Lights. By the time Hitoshi had stumbled into Class 2A on that fateful Monday morning, he had already missed the bell and whatever scraps of pride he could muster when he was faced by his disgruntled homeroom teacher. Needless to say, he had forgotten to set his alarm last night. "Should I ask why you're late? Or should I just accept that you slept in?" Aizawa asked, raising a single eyebrow. "Well, you could. That'll be appropriate." Hitoshi laughed awkwardly. "Sit down. There's an important announcement today." He shuffled out of the way, and Hitoshi took the opportunity to duck past him and hunched down to his desk. He was seated behind Midoriya and in front of Yaoyorozu, or Mineta had been before he'd been expelled. Hitoshi had expected maybe someone to be annoyed when he replaced our classmate, but he'd been welcomed, especially by the girls of the class, so he guessed there'd been a pretty good reason on why Mineta was expelled. Of course, there was a good reason. The little part of his brain that still hero-worshipped Eraserhead piped up. Aizawa has good judgment. "Right. Since you're all finally here, we can begin. I'm not really qualified in this kind of thing, being an underground hero, so I've got an assistant." Aizawa strode to the door, fiddling it open. Present Mike fell into the room, as if he'd been leaning on the door, eavesdropping. Hitoshi had to hold back a snort at Yamada's shocked face, watching the teacher switch between surprised looks at Aizawa and then at the class. "Oh, hey! It's me, Present Mike, here to talk to you about the second year charity gala." On the last few words, Yamada leaped up and waved his hands about, using his quirk to amplify his voice. Shinsou could hear whispers and murmurs throughout the classroom, and he could only make a few words out. The people seated around him weren't great murmurers, except Midoriya, who he could hear whispering to himself about hero management and network opportunities. "I'm sure you're all wondering, what exactly is the second year charity gala? Not to worry, little listeners, I'm going to answer all your questions." Yamada danced over to the podium at the front. "The charity gala is an event where you soon-to-be heroes could get a glimpse of the other side of heroism, the side which we all know and love. You know it, so I don't need to mention it. Economics." Aizawa's deep voice cut through and made Yamada stutter to a halt. Hitoshi watched him squeal and duck his head in an overly exaggerated terror. "Ugh, I hate it so much, almost as much as I hate bugs." He then popped right back up again, slamming his hands down on the podium and making Hitoshi, and half the class, jump. "But now you little listeners get to joining the suffering. Isn't that great?" "That's not a very heroic thing to say," Hitoshi murmured. "Anything to say, Shinsou?" His head snapped up at Aizawa's words. "Nope, nothing at all, Sensei." Anyways, Yamada continued in earnest. "All you have to do is organize and promote a fancy party to raise funds for the school and some charities. Most places are pre-booked, but anyone can attend if they pay for a ticket. It's just very expensive, so it's mostly just managers coming to scout you out as sidekicks or interns." Kaminari raised his hand. Yamada nodded at him. Are you guys sure we should have an open event? I mean, it's only been a few months. What if... It'll be fine. The League of Villains aren't a threat in any way. We have super tip-top security, and Nazu said it'd be good for the school's image, so we kinda have no choice. Yamada was cut off when Aizawa elbowed him in the side, and Hitoshi couldn't hear very well, but it sounded like a whispered conversation of, "You're not supposed to say that," and "No fair, Shouta." After a quiet hiss debate between the two teachers, Aizawa turned to the class and said with absolute conviction, "It will not be a villain attack at the gala." It was not a surprise when Yaoyorozu was the one to take lead on the organization front. "My family hosted plenty of galas in the past, and while it could be hard work, it's always worth it to see the money go to good charities. It feels very heroic." With that one word, she'd gotten Midoriya undivided attention. Hitoshi watched him fish around in his bag for an unopened pack of notebooks, tearing open the packaging and pulling one out, which he quickly labeled as charity gala organizing for the future. The three of them sat on one of the sofas in the dorm common room, mugs of herbal tea in front of them. Aizawa had told them to brainstorm ideas independently, then to come to the next day's homeroom to form a proper plan. That meant that all throughout his lesson, Hitoshi had been worrying about it. Not the organizing part, the gala part. Because he was not exactly known for his adept social skills, and shoving him in a room full of corporate hero managers was not going to help. Yaoyorozu had ambushed Hitoshi and Midoriya just as they were about to go up to his room for a study session. She brandished a wide smile and 2 mugs of herbal tea, so Midoriya hadn't been able to say no, and Hitoshi was still trying to think of an excuse to get out of the situation. "I went to speak to Principal Nazi at lunch today, and he said that the tickets' price are fixed. If we want to raise more money than previous years, as I'm sure we're expected to, as each class is expected to surpass its predecessors, then we need to either ensure that more guests attend, or some diverse additions means of income." Uh, Yaoyorozu, could you say that again, but dumbed down a bit? Midori asked, itching the back of his neck anxiously. "Of course." She smiled, unfazed. "The conclusion is, I think we should sell some merch." Hitoshi raised an eyebrow. "Merch?" "Yes, merchandise. Specifically merchandise centered around UA and its students." "Yes." "Oh, like posters and keyrings and plushies and figures." The words just seemed to tumble out of Midoriya's mouth. "Exactly." The two of them grinned at each other, with matching expressions of enthusiasm. Hitoshi looked over at Yaoyorozu's shoulder to see Jirou, with the same eyebrow and long, surfing look he had sure on his face. "But who'd buy stuff with our faces on it? We're not, like, proper heroes yet." She wandered over with a mug of coffee that smelled a lot better to Hitoshi than the green tea in front of them. She had just been in the kitchen, so he'd guessed that there'd be some coffee left in the machine that he could drink later. He was starting to feel really tired, since he'd been in too much of a rush to get a cup that morning. The thought of coffee gave him the strength to stick around. "That's not true. You've seen all the unofficial merch of us in shops. Ever since the sports festival, it's not fair that they're selling our brand, and we're not getting a cut of it." Yaoyorozu pouted. "Just wait until you're 18 and can secure that copyright claim, Momo." Jirou popped down next to her girlfriend and wrapped her free arm around her, the other holding her coffee. Yaoyorozu hummed, then looked back at Midoriya. "In any case, we should use this to our advantage. With the amount of unofficial merch, it simply increased the value of an official line, especially if it's very limited." "How would we make it, though? I don't know anything about making merch, only buying it." Midoriya put a hand on his chin, thought about it for a second, and wrote something down on the first page of the notebook. Reading over his shoulder, Hitoshi saw it was "Investigate Merch Production." "Being minors, we don't have the legal standing to sign a contract with merchandise manufacturers. However, I've researched the composition of plastic and dyes used in wristbands, so if I try this." Within a few seconds, Yaoyorozu's bare wrist was now covered by a stretchy rubber band. It was watermelon lead, with black writing out that stated, "Jirou is amazing." This made Jirou's face morphed into a toothy grin, and she grabbed her girlfriend's arm, kissing the inside of her wrist. And this made Hitoshi feel very awkward, because, well, seeing it made him think of the one person's wrists, and lips, and neck, and he'd really like to kiss. And it really didn't help that said green ray of sunshine was sitting right next to him in the moment. Midoriya coughed. "Oh, of course." Yaoyorozu looked at the other two people there. The issue is, I was thinking of something more complex than this. I'd really like to study some of the merch out there for us with the microscope in my room to figure out which chemical compounds exactly the colors I'm looking for have, so that they're accurate. Unfortunately, I arranged a Skype call with my parents for today, so I was wondering if you could go and buy me some for me. Hitoshi stared blankly at her. I know it's a bit asked, and I'd really like to be able to show the class some prototypes tomorrow to really sell them on the idea. If I could prove it's possible, Aizawa sensei can veto it right away. I mean, we were gonna study tonight. Yes. Hitoshi looked at Midoriya, scandalous. Really? Yeah, we could go to a cafe, couldn't we? We'd be able to study there. The idea of a cafe brought back images of a cat cafe he used to go to every day after school, before he moved into the dorms. I know a place. So you're good? I've got a list here of the different types I need, and here's some cash. Midoriya pushed away the offered money. I couldn't possibly. You shouldn't spend your own money on my project. I probably would have bought some anyways. Midoriya. Yaoyorozu. Hitoshi snatched the money from out under them. Thank you very much, Yaoyorozu. We should get going now, if we want to get back before curfew. Come on, Midoriya. He took the list as well, tucking it into Midoriya's notebook and putting that back into the other boy's bright yellow backpack. Then he dragged Midoriya by the hoodie out of the dorms, ignoring his protest. Hitoshi didn't anticipate how much stuff was on the list Yaoyorozu had given them. He thought the money had been a lot, but in the end, it was only just enough to cover the cost. They trapped around the town, ducking into every merch store they came across to get the weirdest possible spread of different types for Yaoyorozu to analyze. He expected to see merch from popular classmates like Midoriya and Todoroki. He hadn't expected to see any of his own. The first time, it had been pretty funny to see how they carelessly smudged a screenshot of him in the last year's festival onto a t-shirt. The second, he giggled at a cute chibi they printed out on a ring. Then, he glanced at the side of a very inappropriate donji with him in it, which he placed back face down to make sure Midoriya wouldn't spot it. Finally, he stood, unbridled, awe at the poster on the wall. It was an illustration, but it might as well have been a photo. The amount of depth and detail left him staring, trying to take it all in. But what surprised him the most was he wasn't in his sports festival uniform. No, he was in his hero costume, from when he'd done his internships with Aizawa. He couldn't think of how anyone would have known about that. They only patrolled the night, and mostly taken down low-level thugs, and it had been an uneventful internship compared to that one night. Oh my god, did they use the video of me while we were taking down Snakebite? He placed his face in his hands. Midoriya chirped unhelpfully. You didn't know. I saw a bunch of fan art on Twitter. You looked pretty cool, even if the villain was a bit, well... Hitoshi remembered Snakebite, for only how annoying those snakes had been. They had a mind of their own, so every time Hitoshi'd managed to get the villain under his control, it happened several times. He was very self-righteous. One of the snakes would just whack him in the head, and it shook him out of the brainwashing. And the way you kept hitting the snake's back even after he was tied up was pretty funny. Those damn snakes. But also, like, the fact that you pushed through it and managed to catch him anyways. That was really cool, and it must have been nice seeing someone finally acknowledge you. Because of the video of me shouting at snakes. Yeah, that. Hitoshi finally lifted his head up and dealt Midoriya the trademark Aizawa raised eyebrow, after his friend seemed rightfully intimidated. He turned his eyes back to the poster. At least they got your eye color right, huh? The chibi keyring gave you brown eyes. Hitoshi's eyes widened, and he looked back at Midoriya. You pay attention to my eyes. On the tip of his tongue, but was silenced when he found himself locking in some pretty intensive eye contact. He looked into this unnatural green irises and wondered, what does this mean? What does he want with me? What is he trying to say by staring at me so long? I'm staring back. What am I trying to say? I'm looking right back at him. Though now that I look at it, it's not quite right. They drew it more purple when yours are actually a little bluey? More like indigo. Midoriya broke the eye contact to glance between him and the poster for a second, before deciding to himself and nodding. Oh, Right, of course. He gave Midoriya a toothy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I guess you're used to that, right? Your hair color is a pretty specific shade of green. And just like that, the conversation was derailed, and the middle over the section of where Midoriya's merchandise was, picking up a little knick-knack that were on his list, and they walked. In the end, they didn't have time to go to the cafe or study. Shinshu just barely passed on the English pop quiz the next day. The class had been sold on the merch idea. Mina suggested that, if the two options were sell merch and get more people to come, why couldn't they do both? So Midoriya's notebook had gained another few pages on advertising strategies. Aoyama had busted out his art skills, and they printed out so many posters that the school's staff room printer had run out of ink. This only left the task of actually putting them up anywhere. The gala was set to happen in just under a month, and the class had decided that anyone who would be able to pay the hefty entrance fee on such short notice would have to already be living nearby. Nobody in their right mind would pay for the ticket and the cost of travel on top. So Yaoyorozu had decided that they only needed to put up posters in the area of Masutafu where the school would be situated. And her infinite wisdom, she had given Shinso and Midoriya the task. You patrolled this area when you were interning with Aizawa-sensei last year, so you should know it best, since the rest of us used to live further out, and since you're not so good at introducing yourself, I thought Midoriya would be able to do most of the talking for you. Not so good at introducing himself was an understatement, considering the way he spoke to Class 1A before the sports festival last year. But either way, Yaoyorozu would be sourly disappointed when she realized that Midoriya was even worse. Case in point, the first shop they walked into. Midoriya had been fine on the walk there, but as soon as they got within a good 5 meters of the person on the till, he started shivering all over and turned to Hitoshi, hissing, "I can't do it," and taking several steps backwards, leaving Hitoshi in front of a very confused cashier, who was just waiting for them to move on so she could press the next customer's order. With a glance at Midoriya and a glance back at the cashier, Hitoshi resigned himself to his fate. "Hi, I'm Shinso Hitoshi from UA." He winced inwardly at how his voice went up at the end as if it was a question. "I'm in the second year. We have this charity gala we're organizing." "Yeah?" The cashier looked only to be a couple years older than him. She also looked to be severely unimpressed. "So we were wondering if we could put this poster in the shop window." He shakily held it up for her to look at. She took it in, scanned over it, and turned around, picking up the phone on the desk. Hitoshi held his breath in anticipation. "There's this UA kid, about some ball they're hosting, wants to put a poster in our shop." "Yeah?" "Says he's Shinso Hitoshi." There's a pause as the person on the line says something. The cashier looks at him, eyes wide. "You're the goddamn fucking snakes guy?" Oh my god. Those goddamn fucking snakes were gonna be the end of him. "Yeah, that's me." That video was hilarious. She put the phone back down and handed him back the poster. "Sure, you can put it up, Snake Boy." "I'm not." It was a losing battle. Hitoshi just sighed and nodded, accepting the wad of blue tacks that she offered him. She stuffed to the window and stuck it up, before returning the blue tacks, and leaving the shop as soon as physically possible with Midoriya on his heel. "I'm so sorry, I just froze." Midoriya babbled, his hand shaking in front of him. "That's all right." They kept walking, using the stapler Yaoyorozu had made them to attach the posters to electricity posts, and using thick, sticky tape to cover them both, preventing them from easily being removed and protecting them from the elements. They went into each shop they came across. On one memorable occasion, the elderly baker had offered them a free pastry, saying that the school's presence had made the area so much safer. Although the pastries had looked very delicious, Hitoshi honestly couldn't disagree. The number of villain attacks in the school made the area more dangerous, not safer. He politely turned her down. Midoriya pouted at him. So the next shop they went to, Hitoshi bought him an ice pop. It had been a very bad idea, however, because how on earth was he meant to keep cool when the hottest guy in class, except maybe Todoroki, but his charm was more pretty than hot, was sucking on a popsicle right next to him? He was getting gayer by the second. To try and push it back out of his mind, he ducked into the next closest shop. It was a little corner post office and grocery store combination. The cashier was a balding, middle-aged man with no immediate physical characteristics which made him stick out. In a world of vibrant hair and skin colors, and his appearance was so ordinary that it was memorable. "Hello," the man greeted. "You boys looking for something? I'm here to help." Hitoshi awkwardly smiled back at him. He improved on his introduction technique in the 10 stores they'd been in so far, but he felt a little shaky before he got into the swing of it. "My name's Shinsou Hitoshi. I'm a second year at UA. My class is organizing this year's charity gala, and we were wondering if you'd let us post this poster on your window to promote it." While the man was looking at the poster, Hitoshi took the opportunity to look around him. The little shop was pretty poorly lit, and the windows were facing north, so it felt a lot dingier and more intimidating than it right ought to be. There was an overhead light above the till, where Hitoshi was staring, and it lit the man's face with harsh, uncomprising shadows that revealed every wrinkle. He could just imagine what he looked like. The bags under his eyes were obvious enough in the ambient light, but they made his face look sullen and unnatural whenever he was in the photo with a flash. Behind him, he could feel Midoriya begin to fidget. The man was taking a while. Hitoshi didn't want to seem impatient, though, so he just stood there, passively, and waited. Midoriya, on the other hand, decided to take a step forward, awkwardly. When Hitoshi turned his head, he was right next to him, his face illuminated by the same overlight as his own. While the light had brought out the cashier's wrinkles and imperfection, it only seemed to accentuate the little things about Midoriya that Hitoshi loved. The kind roundness of his eyes, the freckles that danced across his cheeks, and the determined wrinkles in his forehead that just said how much he cared. He seemed to care far too much, especially about the little things like this. To Hitoshi, it didn't matter if the cashier said no, because they would just put one up on the lamppost right outside. But from Midoriya's face, you'd think that they were facing the end of the world. The man's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. "Of course you can, kid. You two are trying to be heroes, huh? I don't look much into it, but you must have pretty great quirks, right?" I wouldn't exactly... You really think so? Midoriya's entire demeanor had changed as soon as the man mentioned quirks. "I love watching pro heroes take down villains, and all the different quirks out there. What's your favorite hero?" "Mine's All Might, of course. Even though he's retired, he's just so..." "Midoriya." Hitoshi really loved listening to him ramble, but he was trying to be professional here. No, it's alright, kid. I love to talk about quirks. They're interesting. You see, my quirk is..." The man reached under the till. He pulled up a glass. It still had a little bit of frizz drink in it, which he gulped down, which Hitoshi watched on disbelieving. As soon as the glass was empty, he placed it on the table. The man looked at Midoriya. "Watch." He gingerly placed his finger on the glass, one by one, gently pressing against the surface. All 5 were down when it started, changing, before his very eyes. The glass, first before cloudy, then solidified into a silver color that refined the overhead light in Hitoshi's eyes. He had to squint at it. "Cool, huh?" The man told him with a wide grin that set Hitoshi on edge. "I can turn glass into metal. If the glass is broken, it makes a really, really sharp knife." I don't really know if it's my place to say, but public quirk use like that isn't really legal. Midoriya trailed off before putting a hand over his mouth. "I'm sorry." The man just laughed. "They ain't gonna catch me." Hitoshi decided was a good time to make a swift exit. "Thank you very much. Bye." He physically dragged Midoriya out of the store, the Shouto boy stumbling on his own feet, which he didn't resist, clearly wanting to leave as soon as possible as well. Once out of the intoxicating room, and in the bright light once more, Hitoshi took a deep breath, and didn't stop walking until they left the street. Okay, so 1, they will now be gameplay during my videos. For the most part, it is almost always going to be Stardew Valley. I might do some other games whenever I feel like it. I know I have Hero Justice. I have not been really good at that game. I'm struggling. I always struggle with those type of game fighter games anyways. But, no, yeah. That was that was one of the games that might have popped up. Stardew Valley is one that's definitely going to forever pop up, and maybe some Minecraft here and there, but for the most part, I think Stardew Valley is going to be very much the default. I've gotten a little obsessed with it ever since I started playing it with my significant other. Now, on to the notes on the fanfic. So far, I am really enjoying this fic. I do notice that there's a lot of small misspellings, which is not that bad. No offense, my misspellings are way worse, trust me. Trust. It is so bad. But so far I am really loving this fic so far. It is so cute. I'm really loving it. I am quite literally really loving it. Like, I do not think you understand how much I am enjoying this fic. I'm gonna have so much fun with this. I do think that one guy was super fucking weird. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't like that guy. Weird, creep. But no, yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this. I know this is episode 1, chapter 1. Chapter 1 still does not end. There's more, but it surpasses. There's like, what, 20 more minutes? I believe, yeah, 20 more minutes around there. So we're definitely gonna catch that one up next time. But I hope you guys like the little drawing I made. I really like that. Oh my god, I love it so fucking much. They're so adorable and they're kissing and it's super cute and I fucking love it. Does it make proportional sense? No, it doesn't. Their hair looks a little weird. Like, if you sit and actually look at it, some things are starting to look weird and disproportional, but the point of it is that it's not necessarily fully chibi art, because some chibi art does pay attention to the small details like that. Not so much like small details like that, but it looks nice, whatever. I just draw to draw. If it looks like the characters, it looks like the characters, right? It's right. You know, there's one that looks like Hitoshi is a literal fucking demon. I did not mean to make him look like a demon. I am so sorry. He just turned out like a demon. I promise. But that one, I love so much how it looks. It is super cute. I fall in love with it so much. It is so adorable. I love it. And this one, I love it so much. And I can't wait to read more of this fic. It has been a while since I've done a strictly Shindeku fic. I will say I'm going to be doing a lot more Shindeku fics. I love Shindeku. Shindeku is one of my favorite things to do. I love Shindeku. I read so many Shindeku fics, and I wish that every fic I read of Shindeku that was really good, I could podfic. But unfortunately, there's some where like the author either does not want me to podfic it, which is completely valid, or the author may have abandoned the account, but they didn't abandon the fic, so I can't podfic it. And then there's just, you know, there's different reasons why I might not be able to podfic it. I know there's one where there's smut in it, but it was really good, apart from that one smutty bit. I say that because I'm a really picky person when it comes to smut, and there's very small times when I actually like the smut. I'm very picky. But there's times where it's like, it's really good, but like I can't podfic it for one or other reason. Or there's one where I really wish I could podfic it, but the creator has podficed it already. So it's like, okay, I'm not gonna ask. That seems rude. You know, stuff like that. So I am gonna be doing as many Shindeku fics as I physically, humanly, possibly can. And I hope you guys come along with the ride. And I mean, I'm actively contributing to the Shindeku fics. I am actively writing Shindeku fics, and I love it. I love Shindeku so fucking much. I do not know why. I have fallen in love with Shindeku so physically much. Don't get me wrong, I love BKDK. BKDK can be good too, but Shindeku is my OTP. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.